But here we go. All right, it's time. Let's review Alien Romulus. That's right. The story that takes place, I think, like roughly 20 years after the movie Alien from 1979, where they found the Nostromo, and they found encased in a meteorite the xenomorph from that movie. Now, I'm not giving anything away. That's the setup. That's how we get there in the connection. There are things that we will talk about, and spoilers will be up. So please remember, if you haven't seen the movie yet, maybe go check it out and then come back. But if you have seen the movie, stay tuned and let's get into it. It's a big one, so I have to give that disclaimer. I do want to say this. I picked this up.
Heck yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's cool. It's a nice like bucket, like metal bucket, and it's got this cool,
awesome.
And this thing kind of moves around. I will be doing a full review on this, so go check out the Scene Snobs channel. Like and subscribe to do that. But that will be coming out soon too, so go check that out. All right, I know you're chomping at the bit. We talked about it a little bit. So the story is that these kids, they're like 19, 20 years old, are trying to get out of the life of mining that they're stuck in. So they go to sneak to try and get away to another planet. They have to go up to this ship, get some cryotubes, so that way they can make the journey to this new planet. Within it, they find that, there are some face huggers being held in there. They've had some encounters before, and they get stuck having to deal with that themselves. So before we get into it, I do want to talk about it a little bit. Fede Alvarez directed it. Fede Alvarez directed. He directed Evil Dead. He directed a bunch of other stuff too. Very good director. Very good horror director. And this was produced by Ridley Scott. Very much so. It looked like Ridley Scott settings. So I thought that was very cool. I have said what it's about. Paul, let's talk about what you think about the movie.
Oh my God. Let's just talk about Andy, who plays the AI, the artificial. Mm-hmm. That actor was superb. How he went from playing an older model to all of a sudden having the newer chip in him to upgrade his stuff.
Dear God, Johnson, I just want to point out his name.
He was superb. He sold it. That seemed like two completely different people. Like, I'm not saying he was just superb. That was great acting, period. I enjoyed everything about this movie, minus the fact it still blew my mind that some 19 to 20-year-olds knew how to fly a ship, knew how to gain access to all these things. Like, it was just normal when they talk about how they've never really been off planet and they've never seen the sun. So that's the only gripe I have with it, because it didn't make sense. But the rest of the movie, I
see them figuring it out though. So just to poke in, and which is funny because I have a lot of holes to poke into the movie itself, but to poke into your flaws in the movie, I can have suspension and disbelief there, because all of the controls seem very similar in how you're controlling things. So like the mining controls, it looks very similar to how you fly the ship. It doesn't look like Star Wars where you're like really maneuvering, because you're not, because technically you're cryo chamber. So like the ship is going to fly itself anyway. So like if you grew up in that element and working that and all that stuff your whole life, like I could see you being able to. Like they were in over their heads quite a bit.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff. So I didn't think they knew fully, but like if you gave me a tablet as a child, I wouldn't know what to do with it. But if you give any child born today a tablet, they know how to handle it and what to do.
All right.
So I look at it like that type of logic, where it's like we're in a future where it's so far ingrained, space travel. Even if you never leave planet, that's a part of life.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I also think, just because we drive cars now, that doesn't mean every 16-year-old automatically knows how to drive a car. That's absolutely not true.
That's true.
So,
but driving a car is an experience like everything else. Like if driving a car was an experience like using a tablet or using a computer or something, then that would be something they could pick on, even fairly. Like the thing that screws you up with doing anything is fear, right? Your hesitations and stuff like. So when you're driving, like if there's no fear and you're like, fuck it, let's go. Most kids are going to get it. Like I'm talking like the 67-year-olds getting into it. Like they're going to get it. And they're like, okay, it's adding the other cars. It's adding the other elements into it. What could happen? Hesitation, stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's giving me a little bit of a heart palpitation knowing I have two sons that are going to drive someday. I figure that out. And I don't know how I even figured it out. But no. So like I didn't want to like poke holes in that, but like I could see like that to me is like suspension of disbelief. Like I get it. Maybe they know how to do it. It's when we have like earthlings of today get on like a time machine or a spaceship in like some fantastical thing. And it's like they know how to maneuver perfectly. And it's like, okay, you're not an airline pilot. Like calm down, you know, they're a fighter. Like like this was like they were in servitude already, and plus they already had him right there. He's like an AI robot synthetic, right? So he can probably maneuver anything or do anything. In fact, it was him. It was all hinged on him going there to be able to control the ship.
Yeah.
So
that part though, yeah. But
yeah, I thought they did a good job.
But past that, I think for anyone that grew up watching Alien and Aliens, they're absolutely going to love this because the filming style they use, the sounds are all familiar. It, like you said, you could definitely tell Ridley Scott was involved, and they paid great tribute to the original and to Aliens.
All right, so that was the feel. We got a little bit cut off, guys, but we're back again. So we're talking about like the sort of the believability of suspension of disbelief, and then we're sort of getting into the aesthetics of it. You know, for me, it did. Everything looked exactly where it left off. Not even in Aliens, an Alien, like Aliens. They crossed a fun bridge of like what Alien was in the suspense there, and Aliens in its action, right?
Right.
But my biggest issue is I loved everything about this, but the story is weak. I did not like the ending.
Okay.
The story was a bit weak. Yes, you're absolutely right. The character of Andy was fantastic, and I didn't dislike anybody that was in it.
Okay.
But we set up a really awesome horror movie. You had probably the best on-screen xenomorph I've ever seen. You're using practical effects, but there's very little gore, especially from Fede Alvarez. Not saying that you needed gore in this, but it didn't hurt, you know, because you're not just telling a tale that's very Michael Myers-ish, which is the first one was. You're more telling a story that's it's not even a second one. I'd say the pacing was more on point with like maybe Alien Covenant.
Okay.
But just shorter, which is nice. Again, I like this one.
Yeah.
This is probably my third favorite. But I don't know that I'm gonna think about that because I'm gonna put it up on Letterboxd and rank everything. This is probably my third favorite. I might go see it again to see, but I do have problems with this story. I did not think it was a completely fleshed out story or that well done and I didn't think all of the characters really were that interesting. I loved in those first two movies every character you see.
Okay.
Even when you hate them, I love them. And to get into spoiler territory a little bit, why was Ian Holm there? He was on the he died on the Nostromo. And I realized people are gonna be like, "Whoa, it was a different one," but why? So you're telling me Wayland Yutani makes synthetic beings, and they do look different because we clearly see that with Andy, and we clearly see that. Well, I can't remember his name in the movie, but Ian Holm's character in the movie. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but you do see that. But like, okay, one of the most effective things about the first Alien movie isn't just the surprise of the chest burster scene, isn't just the xenomorph hunting. It was when you find out that his character is an android,
right?
And they are so taken aback because like he was their friend,
right?
Never told him, and then they found out his nefarious plans of what's going on. So how would they not know if there are multiple synthetics of this character? How do you not figure that out? Like he's clearly there for a reason,
right?
But if there's multiple of this, like it's too, to me, that suspension of disbelief is too much because again, like we just saw him, he's not the same as the first movie. We have already seen that you can have different sort of looking such and such. They even stayed in the second one that Bishop was not the same model, but he doesn't, and like it's not a matter of him looking different, it's a matter of him being different. Right. You know, they were glitchy. So like him being there makes no sense other than you're trying to do fan service, but it doesn't work for the true fans, in my opinion.
See, and I don't, it's tough because like, I guess like I like seeing him back so much, but like when I really think about it, like how
Did you see him back? Do you consider that Ian Holm?
As much as it could be, you know what I'm saying, but I don't know. I think for me, that's not hard to believe just because, I mean, I can't tell you the newest model of a Volkswagen right now, but they're out everywhere. You know what I mean? Just because I drive a Jetta doesn't mean I know the newest Jetta or every version of my Jetta, even though they're different. Even the same year, those
But
models are
it's
different. So to an
there's a
extent,
difference though, because you're not connecting, you're not having friendships, you're not sharing secrets
I
with
do a lot of
somebody.
shit in my car. Like I know my car forwards about, like I can
Yeah, but
fix
that
everything on my
it's
car.
not the same. It's not, it's funny, but it's not the same
But
relationship.
but
Um,
okay, well then I don't know. I just don't see
especially if
if
he's
they're
your
not getting.
secret agent synthetic. If he's the one going out to get
Mhm.
these things that you need, and you're sending him with this crew, and they know him well, and he's been with them for a long time, and they're all getting along, and they're all having fun, and like they know
Mhm.
each other. That's what made that scene when he turns on them, and they find out that he's an android, so much more interesting. Is the
Mhm.
fact that they were devastated. There was clearly like, this is our friend.
Right.
Um,
But
yeah,
maybe in that universe, the AI, they're whatever you want to call them, they're not in everyday life quite as much as we know, because that's why they state, even in Covenant and Prometheus, when they're like, why'd you put on that mask? You're not, well, to make you guys feel more comfortable. Maybe this is one of those things where Wayland Enterprise just kind of ingests whatever his newest model is just within the company. So maybe they just honestly didn't know, because it's not how you and I are perceiving it, where like they're working here at
I like how you're
Walmart.
trying to
They're
fish it out. Like
every
it's a hole. It's a hole. They shouldn't have done
I
it.
just don't.
They should not have done it. If anything, if you needed a more familiar face,
Mhm.
I would have just brought Bishop back because it's already been set up that he was Wayland. I would have just had, and like, or Guy Pearce from Prometheus, or however you want to connect it, like whichever Wayland you want to use. But like, I would have had somebody that looked like Wayland. If you want to connect it in some way, you know what I mean? Having Ian Holm come back as the same android, it leaves a lot of holes, man. And it just, I don't know. That one bugged me because I was like, this is a little much. And then honestly, a lot of it felt like it should have been in freaking Borderlands, like that acid having to fly through the acid thing. Very cool. Very cool. It didn't feel like a aliens movie. And then just to kind of wrap up my point on this before I give my rating. My issues with this movie is the same with Twisters. Both good. I know it's killing you, and I'm sorry, but both good
Yeah.
movies, both worthy in the franchise, but they lack that something special, that heart, that charm that those originals had. And I think a lot of it comes from characterization, and you didn't care about a whole lot of characters. The main character you cared about this movie was the android, who was bad for part of it. So I think that's just why I had such a disconnect. I will watch this again, but for years my watching has always been really just 1 and 2.
Okay.
I don't know if that will change, but do you have any final thoughts before we give our ratings?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm excited. My dad actually introduced me to the Alien franchise, so I'm taking him to go see Romulus tomorrow. So I'm kind of interested to see where he rates it as far as how it goes, because I remember distinctly when he introduced me to Alien and then Aliens. So
I love it. And see, that's the thing. I think this is going to be great for that.
mhm,
Again, I'm just being critical of the movie because that's what this is. I
mhm.
think it's a good movie. I think people should go out to theaters to see it. I will tell you this, the ending is they should have ended it way differently. And that ending is really what brings down my score. Again, go see it,
Mhm.
go have fun with it. But when you see that Prometheus callback, that abysmal a Prometheus callback at the end, and tall lanky bastard that he is,
Mhm.
it's not, it just is terrible. And then that's like, it's such great. I was out. So it was such great practical effects throughout the movie. But then when you get to
Yes.
it and she's pulling herself back in and that thing jumps out, it did scare me. I'll give you that. I jumped. But when you finally look, I jumped because it's supposed to. It's a jump scare. And
Mhm.
actually, it's so out of place with the rest of the movie. Like even when the thing comes up and
Yeah.
grabs him, brings him up the hole, like that was a great jump scare. And then
Mhm.
you get this, and it was such a cheap jump scare. I'm like, come on, Fetty. Um, and then you look at it and I'm like, that's disgusting CGI. That was not good. Like that was clear, terrible CGI. And that's the only that character. Like if you had just cut it off, if you just cut it or changed the design, you could have had the ending, but just change the design. I don't understand how the xenomorph is it's a perfect killing machine, and yet they still goddamn try to evolve it. It's perfect. It's perfect. Stop trying to. It's scary. Just start trying to tell different stories with the damn thing. Go back to telling haunted house stories. Go back to telling action stories. All right. Paul? Do you have any final thoughts for?
I really appreciated that the director fought for the practical effects because they wanted to do a lot more CGI and he wanted to go practical, and I definitely appreciate it because a lot of those scenes I watched a lot more in depth just to see, you know, how things were done. And I as someone that loves the thing, I thought I greatly appreciated that as a fan and just a film goer, because there's such an art to making the actual thing instead of, you know, I'm not saying a cop out because I get budgets anyway, but I enjoyed not having it all CGI'd. And I thought it was a great movie. I would suggest to go see it. I know some people have asked me personally to, like, do you think you should see it in IMAX? They said they filmed it in IMAX. I mean, if you can afford it, I'd say yes, but I'd say I saw it in standard and I absolutely loved it. So I don't think you're going to lose anything, but I think also if you financially can just go see it in IMAX with your family, go see it in IMAX.
If you're really into it, I'd say go see it. If you were really into seeing sci-fi, especially that ending scene when you get to the rings of the planet, worth it. I didn't see it in IMAX. I saw it standard and it was worth it there. So I got to imagine that scene in IMAX is worth it. It is worth going out. This is a fun movie. If you're looking for a fun horror movie, but it isn't, I wasn't underwhelmed by it. But I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't like overly like, oh, this is so fantastic. Like there's a lot to it where I'm kind of like, whatever, you know, like it's fun. But I feel the same way. Well, actually, there's not a whole lot of alien movies I feel the same way about. No, but this was cool. I just hope they're done. I don't want to go back to it again. I don't want to go back to the Nostromo. I don't want to have callbacks anymore. If you're just going to do it, either do it in a way that brings them back to horror or sci-fi. Stop touching down on both.
Yep.
And get I don't want to say get better directors because I like Fede Alvarez, and he did a great job in this. But I also don't feel like he was an Aliens fan.
No,
you know, like I feel like he was doing his best. Like, stop with the fucking quotes too. I didn't need that guy to be like, get away from her, you bitch.
The pause.
Like, it so like a long pause. I was like, anyway, before I talk myself out of my rating, this is a 3.5 for me out of 5. So same as Jackpot. It was a fun movie. Go check it out. But it's on the same level. Like, it's forgettable, but at the same time, like, I might check it out again. How about you? What is your rating for it?
I think I put a 4 out of 5, so I put it at an 8. 4.4 out of 5. Sorry, just 4 out of 5. Yeah.
4 out of. How did you get 8?
Because I do mine out of 10 for personal, and I still get messed. Anyway, 4 out of 5. Yeah.
I love it. 4 out of 5. Okay, well, there's our ratings. So 4 out of 5 and 3.5 out of 5. Go check out Alien Romulus. Let us know what you think, because that's the way it's going to be. But let's.